Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to explain a movie called Luca. Get comfortable. The film begins with two fishermen, Tommaso and Giacomo, fishing near a dangerous island. Giacomo is scared that the stories about sea monsters lurking around the island are true and wants to avoid fishing near the island. Tommaso, on the other hand, feels fine. He teases his friend about being cowardly and insists near the island is a great fishing spot. As they fish, a sea monster watching them from underneath the water swims to the surface and sneaks onto their boat to steal some of their belongings. Giacomo catches a glimpse of the sea monster and starts to panic. The sea monster panics, too, and starts to swim away, but he's caught in the fisherman's net. He struggles to break free as the men struggle to escape. The sea monster eventually escapes, relieving the fishermen who hurriedly paddle their boat away. Tommaso finally believes that the stories are true. Sometime later, Luca, a timid sea monster child, leads his goatfish to graze at the bottom of the ocean. Luca is a goatfish shepherd. While his goatfish graze, he discovers human items at the bottom of the ocean. Luca is curious because humans are believed to be murderous land creatures that come to the sea to kill sea creatures. Suddenly, a motorboat passes on the surface, and Luca quickly hides his goatfish, believing the humans are land monsters. At lunchtime, Luca and his goatfish return home to his parents, who live with his grandmother. Luca seems lost during lunch and reveals that he is curious to know where boats come from. Grandma Paguro excitedly tells him about the surface world and the transformation of sea monsters into humans when their bodies are dry. Luca is excited to hear more tales of the surface world. Still, his parents, Lorenzo and Daniela, forbid him from going to the surface. They are afraid that he might be killed by humans. Later that day, Luca returns to the field with his goatfish and sees more human collectibles. Suddenly, another sea monster dressed as a human diver approaches, scaring Luca away. Luca soon discovers that the sea monster is another boy his age, Alberto Scorfano, who lives alone in an abandoned tower on dry land. Alberto explains that he came to collect his human collectibles, implying that he was the sea monster from earlier who scared off Tommaso and Giacomo. Luca follows Alberto to the surface and transforms into a human. Worried that he is disobeying his parents, Luca quickly swims back into the water and goes home. That night, he contemplates going to the surface again. The next day, he swims to the surface, where Alberto collects more human collectibles. Since he has never transformed, Luca has difficulty adapting to his human form. Still, Alberto teaches him since he is used to being in and out of the water. He teaches him to walk and tries to impress Luca with his human collectibles and tall tales. Over time, Luca and Alberto hang out on the dry land. Luca is impressed with all of Alberto's collections, but he is more intrigued by the Vespa. Alberto dreams of owning one, and Luca imagines owning one too. They then build a makeshift Vespa with some of the collectibles in Alberto's collection. Luca ends up spending the entire day with Alberto since they have become friends. By the end of the day, Luca returns home late to his parents, who are already worried about his whereabouts. Grandma Paguro covers for him, encouraging his adventurous spirit since she was once adventurous. Luca joins Alberto on the surface the next day, and they ride their Vespa. Luca is curious if Alberto has been to the human town of Portorosso. Alberto lies that he has been there a few times to impress Luca. Days go by, and Luca's parents become suspicious of his whereabouts. One day, they check the field where Luca usually brings the goatfish to graze and find a stone dummy there instead. His worried parents swim to the surface and discover Luca with Alberto. Luca falls asleep in Alberto's hiding place, causing him to return home late. Furious that Luca disobeyed their order, they send him to live in the deep with his uncle, Uncle Hugo. Luca begs not to be sent to the deep, but his mother insists it is his punishment for disobedience. An upset Luca swims to the surface to meet Alberto, who suggests they run away and hide out in Portorosso. Luca is hesitant, but when Alberto says they will get a Vespa, Luca decides to go with him. The boys swim across the ocean and over to the human town. Luca is surprised to see a lot of humans since he has never seen any. As they sightsee, the boys accidentally kick a ball at Ercole Visconti's Vespa, upsetting him. Ercole is a bully and 5-time champion of the Portorosso Cup, with which he purchased his Vespa using his prize money. The Portorosso Cup is a competition that involves swimming, eating past, and biking. Luca believes he can sign up for the Portorosso Cup and buy himself a Vespa. However, Ercole and his gang pick on the boys. When Ercole tries to soak Luca in a fountain, almost revealing his sea monster form, a girl named Giulia Marcovaldo stops him. Giulia tried to compete in the Portorosso Cup and lost because she didn't have a team. She is on her way to deliver fish for her fisherman father and asks the boys to tag along with her. Ercole calls them losers and mocks them. Later, the boys decide to team up with Julia for the cup to win the prize money and buy a Vespa. Julia auditions them and realizes they are not fit for the competition. Still, Luca begs her, explaining that they are runaways and winning the competition is their only ticket to freedom. Julia feels sorry for them and agrees to make them members of her team. That night, Julia invites them to stay at her house and introduces her fisherman father, Massimo. Massimo has a grudge against sea monsters. At dinner with Julia's family, Alberto's true form is almost revealed when Luca accidentally splashes water on him. Julia asks her father for money to register for the race. Still, he explains that he doesn't have the money because he hasn't been able to catch enough fish to sell. Julia is disappointed, and Alberto offers to show Massimo where many fish are since they are sea creatures. Although Massimo has yet to learn this. However, Massimo's cat, Machiavelli, catches a glimpse of Alberto's non-human form and attacks the boys. Later, Julia allows the boys to sleep in her treehouse since they have nowhere to go. The next day, Alberto and Luca help Massimo catch much fish, earning him enough money for Julia's sign-up fee for the cup. While they register, Ercole taunts them, and Luca stands up to him, annoying the bully. He swears to ruin their chances of winning and leaves after he is humiliated. Julia and her team begin to prepare for the competition. For the competition, Alberto will complete the pasta eating stage, Luca will complete the biking stage, and Julia will complete the swimming stage since the boys can't swim or their identities will be revealed. During swimming practice, Ercole taunts Julia and her team again, forcing them to leave in frustration. Meanwhile, Luca's parents infiltrate the town to find their son. Since Luca is not completely human, Daniela tries to soak the children in water to see if they will transform, but she is unlucky. Luca spots his parents and hides away. As time passes, Julia and Luca become close, making Alberto jealous. Julia teaches Luca about the stars, which he mistakes for fish in the sky. Luca becomes interested in attending school after Julia shows him some of her textbooks. Alberto doesn't like that Luca spends too much time with Julia and interrupts their training, causing him to crash their bicycle into the ocean. When Luca asks if he can follow Julia to school, Alberto intentionally reveals his sea monster form to Julia to prevent it. In fear, Luca pretends to be surprised about Alberto's true form, betraying him. Alberto swims away as Ercole's gang shows up and tries to hunt him. Shortly after, Julia and Luca return to her home, where she discovers that Luca is a sea monster, too, forcing her to send him away for his safety. A heartbroken Alberto trashes everything in his hiding place, and Luca arrives to reconcile with him. Alberto reveals that he was abandoned by his father long ago and no longer wants to participate in the competition. Luca promises to win the Vespa to rebuild their friendship. The following day, the competition begins, but Luca and Julia compete separately. Luca completes the swimming race using a diving suit. After, he completes the pasta eating contest, but it suddenly begins to rain as the biking contest starts. Luca panics as his sea monster form is exposed, but Alberto arrives in time to give him an umbrella. However, Ercole tackles Alberto, exposing his sea monster form, and all of Portorosso is horrified by his true form. This time, Luca helps him up, revealing himself too. They continue the race as Ercole tries to harpoon them for money. Julia intervenes, crashing into Ercole and allowing Luca and Alberto to cross the finish line. As they help Julia up, the townsfolk surround them, but Massimo recognizes them and steps in. Massimo declares them the competition winners, and everyone agrees to let them go, excepting the sea monsters. Some of the townsfolk reveal themselves as sea monsters now that they have been accepted by the humans. Luca reunites with his family, and Ercole is abandoned by his gang, who are tired of his domineering and abusive personality. Later, Luca and Alberto buy a Vespa. However, when Alberto realizes that Luca is still interested in schooling, he decides to sell it to buy him a train ticket to Genoa, where he can go to school with Julia. Julia and Luca are happy, but Luca becomes sad when he discovers Alberto is not coming with him. Albert promises to stay in touch with Luca as Luca's family, Alberto and Massimo, see Luca and Julia off. Alberto says he will stay behind with Massimo and help him out. As the train leaves, Alberto cheers Luca, who bids his new friends and family farewell. Luca is enthusiastic about going to school as the train leaves Portorosso. Luca meets Julia's mother during the credits, and Massimo adopts Alberto. That was all from the video. To watch more content like this, subscribe to this channel. See you next time.